In the book, on the first page, you say that events can and should be one of your most important revenue drivers as a B2B business. Why?
With AI, it's becoming less and less human. And so the way to stand out is to be more and more human. And there's nothing more human than gathering and coming together in events and having conversations.
When it comes to in-person events, the culture, you build that longevity. The friendly known person becomes friends, and then becomes partners, collaborators, working together. You build a movement. It's almost bigger than the event itself.
That culture piece is such a big deal, and most people never even consider it. I've always been crazy intentional about it. My goal is I want hugs over handshakes. At this point, you guys are way more expert in this than I am. What am I missing? What are you guys thinking about?
Most people think, okay, we're going to have our speaker come in. They're going to go on stage, deliver their presentation. We'll film that, and that's it. A lot of the times, they're there with you most of the day.
Yeah.
Put an additional camera on them. Do a quick drop. Even if it's just to promote, hey, my speech that I just had was filmed. We go over this stuff, drop one little nugget that's actionable. You want more like that, go check out the full video on the site. Now you're driving the long tail.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
What's up, everybody? This is Jake Clare, and welcome to the EventShark Podcast. I'm joined by my co-host, Ding Zhang, in the house, and we got a special guest. We got Scott Ingram, founder of Sales Success Media. When it comes to sales podcasts, best tips in sales. When I was in tech sales, I would listen to Scott's podcast religiously. Always got some great ways to improve my sales process. But Scott is also known beyond just sales. He's an authentic voice in the sales community. Hosts a conference that me and Ding have both been to multiple years in Austin, a sales conference. But he also wrote a book called Making Rain with Events as EventShark. We were going through this and we're like, wow, me, Ding, this is a lot of the stuff that you and me talk about, but maybe haven't materialized it into thought. So we really want to talk to you about this book, also what you're seeing in the sales landscape as well. So thanks for joining us, Scott. So my first question for you. In the book, on the first page, you say that events can and should be one of your most important revenue drivers as a B2B business. Why?
Here's what's interesting. You'll have to look and see how old that book is, because it's been 10 or 12 years. I think it's even more true now. And the reason I say that is with AI, it's becoming less and less human. And so the way to stand out is to be more and more human. And there's nothing more human than gathering and coming together in events and having conversations. It's way more effective than I go on site and I visit a client, because now I only impact one relationship. You have an opportunity to have a lot of impact in a short period of time, and in so many different ways, right? You might get product feedback. You probably trying to generate pipeline and do those types of things, but there's so many ways that you can get that impact. And the other thing that I love about it, because I'm a huge fan of really the idea of a third-party testimonial. Yes, I'm a sales guy, but you know who's a better seller than me? My customers, right? And so when you're at events, if you have your customers there, it's a superpower. It is an absolute superpower, because why are you going to believe me? Like, I'm paid to tell you good things about my product.
Yeah.
But my customer isn't, and I'll tell you the truth. And hopefully the truth is good.
What's crazy is because you wrote this maybe like over 10 years ago,
Yeah.
and you're talking about content at events. Like,
Yep.
I feel like you were way ahead of the game when it came to that. And I think Ding was going to chime in on something too, right?
Yeah.
One thing we do a lot at EventShark is we shoot testimonials. But there's one additional layer on top of that, right? Because they go on your website and watch a testimonial video. Cool, it feels more real, it's more human. Mm-hmm. But then if they're in person, right, and you're not there prompting, they can ask questions, and it feels very real. You can't fake that. You can't fake a user, someone that bought the tool and is like, hey, this is great. This is how my problem was. Oh yeah, we have this similarity. This helped this. This was the impact. And when you don't say it, to your point about a third-party testimonial, it's so powerful because it's believable.
And you're also getting that feedback. Like, I'm giving the testimonial, I'm talking to you. I don't have the weird intimidation if I'm trying to talk to the camera and how do I emote to this piece of glass, right? A lot of people really struggle with that. And we should probably define more like, what do we mean by events, right? Because the scale of possibility, I think, is really broad. Like, I think a lot of times maybe we default, especially when we're thinking B2B, we default to, we're going to a conference. And so maybe we have a booth or we're exhibiting, but I feel like there are so many other kinds of events, right? You could host an event. It could be much more intimate, right? It could be, we're just doing kind of a local customer thing. We're doing a roadshow, and so we're doing dinners in various parts of the country where we've got kind of concentrations of our customers. There's a lot of different ways. Or you're hosting your own customer conference, right? Again, like a lot of times you can be a piece of somebody else's event, or it could be your event. And you have even more control over like what is that experience? What are people talking about? All of those pieces.
So, okay, in the book, you reference a stat: B2B companies up to 1/5 to 1/3 of their percent of their budget is towards events. My question is like, why? Why? And do you think that will continue? Or do you think it'll fall back?
This is such an interesting timeline. And let's be clear, like this is a 10-year-old book. I wrote it while I was working with an event marketing technology company.
Totally.
And I haven't been directly in that space in a long, long time. I think we've seen it play out in different ways over time. So what's happened in between? Well, we had a global pandemic that pretty much shut down events pretty hardcore. We've watched it reemerge and come back, and now we're seeing all of this AI stuff and everything else. So in that middle period, event budgets were gone. I mean, there was no event stuff. I don't think. And again, I've not looked at any sort of industry stats on this, but I don't think that that's fully recovered, right? My guess would be, and you guys probably have a better lens on this than I do, but I would guess it's maybe back 70 or 80% of what it was kind of pre-pandemic, when this was a primary go-to-market strategy for a lot of companies, right? Like, we just go to trade shows. Well, there's fewer shows, there's fewer opportunities to kind of do that. I don't see the road show opportunities, like even, customer events and things like that. I'm not seeing that as much as I did kind of in that period, which to me says it's a more untapped opportunity. And I think the impact is the same, if not more, but it's happening less where there's fewer opportunities, which also means fewer conflicts, and there's more need that we have to connect with other people, right? Yeah. So being able to fill that need, lean into that differentiation, now's a better time than any other time I've ever seen to be doing events because of those dynamics and because of that AI human dynamic that we talked about before.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned in the book, I'll keep referencing the book, we're battling for 8 seconds of someone's attention online, where you get someone at an event, you got them for maybe days, at least a couple hours.
Totally.
So
yep.
That's such and even me and Ding have been going to a bunch of events. I would totally agree. I think there is an under-saturation of events because of COVID, so it hasn't fully recovered, but most people I talk to that throw an event are seeing good ROI on it for the most part.
Do you have any examples of people that are saying they're not getting a good ROI from an event right now?
100%. So the biggest differentiator that we've seen is the type of event, how you're spending that money, right? Because when you say we want to invest in events, there's a million different things you can do.
It's a good call out because I'm thinking of owned events right now in my head, but I think there's a lot of other things.
So what we're seeing go down a lot, larger scale conferences and trade shows where there's a million exhibitors, is that the quality of ROI from those events has gone down. We're seeing most of the new spend go towards owned events. User focus, product focus, because there's just a higher chance of conversion there.
I'm experimenting with a completely new model in the way that I'm doing the sales success sponsorships this year, massively incorporating them, right? And really trying to solve for all of the things that I think are just challenging and hard about that traditional experience, right? Like, I've got a booth I've got to manage. So I've got to get this booth set up and all the things. I've got to get it staffed. I've got to figure out all of this coverage. And again, you also have this, I know we talked about this, my friend Tom talked about this in the book, you have this bifurcated strategy of you have the attendee class and you have the exhibitor class, right? Yep. And the exhibitor class are lesser humans, right? They may be contagious. And so you just get this really weird dynamic, and there's not a lot of opportunity for the exhibitors to be a part of the rest of the event. And so what we're doing is I'm calling it a pitch party. So we're scaling down the sponsorships. We're making them more accessible. I'm being really picky about who have as sponsors because I want it to be really well aligned with, hey, this is something my attendees would value, right? This isn't just, hey, they'll write me a check. And then, so we're giving them a very short opportunity very early in the event to do a 2-part short pitch, right? 3 minutes, and they can break it up however they want, but one part is just contextualized for us, like, who are you? What do you do? Who are you for? Who are you not for? Right? Perfect. Now I know who you are. People know who they need to go talk to over the course of the rest of the event. The second part is they're pitching their experience. So I had kind of a gap in my schedule over the years. It was on purpose, right? I wanted people to have a big piece of white space to go do their own dinners and go do their own thing. But that's also kind of hard, right? And it's like, oh, now I've got an extra expense. I got to buy this dinner and whatever else. So I was like, well, why don't I just have sponsors do that so they can create their own little micro experience designed for 10 or 15 people. And here's what I'm doing, and here's where we're going to be, and I'm going to have this guest speaker, we're going to talk about this or whatever it is. And it's really about giving them an opportunity to attract their people. And now the other attendees get to choose, well, which one of these things do I want to do? What's going to be fun for me? What do I care about? What kind of food do I want to eat? Who do I want to hang out with? What topic is compelling for me? And now it's not these two different classes of people. They're all part of it. And there are no booths. Like, everybody knows who you are. I mean, obviously, I benefit from a rather intimate event. Send more people. Bring customers for your third-party testimonial piece, right? And integrate into the event, be a part of the event, be a student of sales like all the rest of us are.
I think that's like a great evolution of the sponsorships for events, just be more creative, turning it to more of like an experiential, choose your own adventure type activation versus just, copy and paste.
Well, the key word there is creative. And so I think regardless of what type of event it is, this is a marketer's dream. Like, be freaking creative. And I'm not talking about like the arts and crafts and the imagery. I'm talking about the creative experience. Like, what's going to be really compelling that are going to get people to your booth or to the little extra experience that you're hosting outside of the event that you can be inviting people to. It's those kinds of things that nobody thinks about it. And that ounce of creativity has an exponential impact on your budget.
Yeah. What I'm almost hearing is there's like it's a staircase, a ladder, right? And it's like us coming from sales, we get it. It's like, all right, you get your awareness and then a consideration problem, etc.
Here comes the metaphor. Ding does this every podcast. He's got like a random like metaphor.
try to get randomly esoteric. But the point here is that when I talk to certain marketers, I almost get the feeling that their expectation for their activation at an event is it's all at once. Here's this whole thing.
Yep.
Here's our big monitor with our custom slides and video that we made for this. Here's all our brochures and whatnot. Enter a drawing, win a car. But to your point, the context is lost when you try to do everything at once because you can't be everything for everybody. In sales, you have top of funnel with SDRs calling, getting some awareness, and then if there's a fit, then you pitch them. Really, then you try and learn about them. I see so many companies that they're trying to please everybody, and then the message is just weak. The experience is weak. The creativity suffers because you can't really get that creative or that personalized when you're trying to hit everyone at the trade show.
I think the other thing, again, trade show stuff, because I've got a couple coming up, so I'm actively kind of thinking about this, and I think the trap is the pitch slap. Like, the natural inclination is, because somebody's going to walk up and say, so what do you guys do? You just opened the door. You asked me for my pitch, but did they really? Is that really the most valuable thing? And so my other thought is you almost need to like change the order, right? And because I think first you need to recognize that you're probably going to have a minute or two with this person. If they're really running the loop, they're going to get bombarded with these messages. They're all going to get confused in their head. So the thought that you're going to stick is irrelevant. So what if the goal is really qualification, right? So rather than me pitching you, let me figure out who you are and whether or not this is even a worthy conversation, more importantly, worthy of follow-up. So here's the other thing, and this is the way that we structured the entire book. Everything we thought about from a pre-event, during event, post-event perspective. And each of those phases, they're so different. Right? Pre-event is the prep, and when we're getting creative and when we're telling the team this is what our strategy is, rather than like we show up cowboy, like here we are, we're going to talk to people with no like thought to what is this actually going to be. So what if the booth strategy is whatever stuff is relevant to your solution that you can use as a qualifying matrix. And then, because now your post-event follow-up is going to be so much more powerful, because you know what sales hates? Here's all of our event leads, follow up with all of them. What the hell? All this is a list of names.
Yeah.
What I want, being on the receiving end of that, I want a prioritized list that's contextualized. Scott, here's a list of 50 people that we talked to at the booth, but these are the 5 that are hot, and here's why. Well, now my follow-up isn't this generic BS that they also got from those 49 other companies, so it's lost in the stew. Yeah. Now I'm on point, on message, like this is relevant. We really need to go deeper into this. That dynamic is going to change anything. Again, you have to look at all the perspectives of this thing, right? When you're attending an event and you're talking to 40 different vendors, do you remember any one of them? Nope. Maybe 1 or 2 that were really interesting, and they'll call you back. Like that one, that's easy, right? It's that next layer. It's the real opportunity, and you got to work at it. You got to dig it out.
I want to talk about quickly, a lot of the book is around content at events. What are your top 3 event content formats?
We're surrounded by cameras. You guys are video production. But I really do think the biggest, most obvious opportunity is to capture video. You've got live humans, and that video can take a lot of forms. You've certainly got an opportunity to be capturing testimonials. There's other things. We could even think about this from an internal content perspective. What if we are very early in a new product and I want to collect feedback? So now we can be collecting that feedback, or we're showing a short demo, and right afterwards getting that feedback where this isn't something we're going to share publicly. This is something that I'm going to share with my engineering team. So there's a lot of unique things I think that you can do there. Other types. It's been too long since I've thought about this.
I'll jog your memory. You talk a lot about
Somebody wrote about
the speaker content, like using that as like webinars and repurposing that.
Sure. Yep.
How important is the speakers at your events?
Very, right. And so from my perspective,
it's kind of obvious. It's kind of an obvious question, but
no, absolutely. But it's worthy of talking through, right? So, and I think in most of these instances, right, like your big A-list, like we're trying to get a draw from this speaker because it's a huge name, or we're going to pay them $80,000 type of stuff. They probably won't allow you to share their talk. Right?
Yeah.
This is because I got to sell this again and again and again, right? But by and large, I think for most of us, especially when it comes to customer conferences, the vast majority of our speakers, we're not even paying. I don't pay my speakers, right? So the thing that I can give them that has value is their produced talk. Right. And so giving that has a lot of cachet for them that they can kind of use. And then the work that you guys do where, well, that doesn't have to just be one 30-minute, 45-minute keynote. It can be a bunch of clips. It can be, there's a lot of things that we can do with that big piece of content that we have at our disposal. Right. That can turn into name your format, all of those different things. Like we can create GPTs to like turn this into a blog post, turn this into a white paper, turn this into this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah. Well, and even going to your conferences, like noticing that there's a lot of intentionality with it's not like a pitch or anything. It's not like a company like selling you some shit. It's actually like some really good tactics and takeaways for your audience. So I think it's extremely important to like be picking like who do you want to attract, right? bring in the right speakers that
Yeah,
have
yeah.
top
I mean,
stuff.
at this point, you guys are way more expert in this than I am. Like, what am I missing? What are you guys thinking about and working on, and what's moving the needle?
Yeah, so a really low-hanging fruit, and this is especially true if you are paying the speaker, is that most people think, okay, we're going to have our speaker come in, they're going to go on stage, deliver their presentation, we'll film that, and that's it. All right. It's like they're there with you. A lot of the times they're there with you most of the day.
Yeah.
Put an additional camera on them. Have them, do a quick drop, even if it's just to promote. Hey, my speech that I just had was filmed. We go over this stuff. Drop one little nugget of gem that's actionable. If you want more like that, go check out the full video on the site. Now you're driving.
Yeah.
The long tail.
Brilliant. Yeah. Create your own teasers using your speakers. I love that.
And all the speakers, they're incentivized for that because usually if you're on the conference circuit and you're speaking, the power of content. You probably have a content engine going and you're investing money in that.
Exactly.
So
if I just give you ammunition, here, load this in your machine.
It's like we're paying you and we're paying for this video crew to be there for you. And not only does this apply to speakers, this could be helpful for prospects as well. Now we're in this fully digital age. Most executive decision makers, they could see the value of having content of them, especially if they're a non-founder and they're building like an executive brand, right? Everyone's like 10 years in tech, B2B. They're not that long. The reason it's powerful is that, hey, I want to invite you to make content with us to a prospect.
Yep.
Is that, okay, they're going to get that value out of it. The benefit for the seller is that, okay, now you have a natural follow-up point. Right, that's beyond just, hey, we have this, because there's level one is thank you for stopping by our booth and expressing interest in our product. Would you like to sign up for a demo? Right, no one cares. Level two is we had a bit of conversation, we took some notes. You can personalize the messaging a little more. Level three is here's a batch of good assets of you. Jog your memory of when we did this, and you sat there for an hour having a conversation on an interview. You could sprinkle in some discovery amongst her as well. Now you have even more context than if you just had a little hallway conversation.
You actually gave me an idea because I love the creative side of this, right? So years ago, I mean, I think this still happens, right? Like this idea of, we're going to have selfie booths, or we're going to have, somebody doing headshots at the event or something like that. You could just as easily in your booth experience create an opportunity for people to create like almost a digital postcard kind of thing. Like, hey, here's a very socially shareable thing. Why don't you share for yourself, for your channels? Hey, I'm at this event. Here's the nuggets that I'm taking away from this or whatever else. And then, we just get a little piece of branding on that. Or to your point, like, well, that's my excuse to follow up. Like, cool, we're going to edit this. We're going to clean this up for you and make it really pretty, give it to you in a couple. You tell me what formats you want it in. We'll set it up for you. Now I'm following up with your video.
Yep.
We're going to interact. Yeah. Yeah, I love that.
It's hard to ghost someone if you were on a video with them for like 20 minutes and like you guys had a great experience.
But not even that, right? It could be just the 30-second
straight interview,
1 minute part, and I'm just prompting them to help them create an asset that is then shareable for them. Yeah. Now, that's only going to work in kind of certain audiences and certain markets. But to your point, like if that audience is heavy in people who are looking to build brand and looking to build influence, here's your gold nugget. Yeah.
And in the book, you talk about, I keep saying the book, in the book, you talk about pre-event content, at-event content, which is quoted as the hardest thing to do, and then post-event content. And there's so much different opportunities. Like you can obviously set up the event, you're hyping up the event, and then at the event is the hard part is getting stuff out, I think, right away too, is because even there's some simple things that you talk about in the book. It's like, hey, just talk about quickly the takeaways from the event and post that, right away.
Yep.
That's an easy low-hanging fruit that I still don't see. And
I mean, that's your FOMO opportunity.
Yeah, FOMO.
Right? Like, you're not here. We're learning all this stuff. We're having this great experience. I mean, if nothing else, that's a sign up for next year. This is something that I say don't do, right? Because I'm in the middle of running an event when I'm running mine. So this during content, other than what's actually happening, that's all that's happening.
Yeah. And you say that 4 out of 5 people wish they could be there. This is, a quote. So
Yep.
only 1 out of 5 people can actually be there. So maybe there's another 4 people that would like to see that content or at least be part of the experience, whether it's some kind of social interaction. So you're also creating this content for the people that can't make it and potential future attendees in the future as well.
The dynamic has changed a lot from a social perspective, but I remember years and years and years ago, I would hijack events without being there. Okay, where you're all using this hashtag and you're doing these things, and I know these people who are going to be there, and so I could interact like I was at the event. I'm not there.
Even if you have a smaller presence, you can make it feel bigger. If you're at like, Dreamforce or something like that, whatever random event.
For sure.
You can kind of still engage in the conversation because there's a bunch of people out there that aren't there too.
Right.
That want to maybe hear about it or talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's so many guerrilla tactics around events too, right? So if you don't have much budget, I'm like, why are you paying for a booth? Why are you sponsoring? Hell, you don't even have to have a ticket.
Yeah. Scott,
there's lots of things you could do surrounding the event.
Yeah. Periphery events at large trade shows. We're now seeing companies like, we're not even going to sponsor.
Yep.
We're going to spend more money on an event, a hub, if you will. The ROI is crazy. The event sponsor piece is like you're competing with other vendors and booths and whatnot, and you have your own event. And that's why I like the format that you're taking with Sales Success this year, is that you're very intentional about that piece.
Yeah, I'm like, just put it in.
Yeah.
Let's make it part of it. Yeah.
But you're a veteran of the event circuit. What's the wildest guerrilla marketing tactic that you've
I like
seen?
that question.
I have a friend. His name's Tim Hayden. He's here in Austin, and he ran like a creative event agency called Game Plan Marketing back in the day. So all of my examples come from. Actually, I think Tim did Tim contribute to the book? I bet he did. They hired a bunch of just actors, right? Like just people. And did kind of this total flash mob thing. They dressed them all the same. They put sunglasses on them. And so the keynote was happening and just like aisles of people came walking in. I don't remember the whole activation and what all they did. I think they were handing something out or it was an invitation or something. But just there's so much that you can do. I mean, hell, you can create a flash mob with your own customers that are at the event. Actually, this is one of my favorite tips, like this for everybody, right? Like salespeople in particular who are working a booth. I worked this out. I was selling for Eloqua at the time. We had a big customer conference. I had just moved into this role. I was managing a bunch of new accounts, and I hadn't met these people yet. I've talked to a lot of them, but I hadn't met them. Well, how do you find somebody you haven't met yet? I don't even know what they look like. And so what I did was I just had all of them meet me really early in the event. So I created my own little micro activation, right? Like, hey, we're gonna meet at our booth, at the first happy hour at this time, right? Calendar invites, like the whole thing, like really intentional about this. Meet me here. It's like 5 or 10 minutes, no big deal. But it did a lot of things. One, it helped me connect all of those faces and names. I became sort of a friendly known person. Now here, the friendly known person, when you go to an event, if you don't know anybody else there, like you're looking for a friend, you're so isolated and by yourself. And if you can make that connection of like, oh, I've got a go-to person. If I see them in the hallway, I'm going to go talk to them. So not only did I create that for myself, I created it between my customers. So now I'm introducing them to each other. And so now they all have these little friends and they're all talking to each other. And we had a good product and happy customers. Don't do this if your product sucks. But now they're all connected. They're sharing stories. They want to get together. I think I even ended up doing a couple of on-sites where we pulled more than one customer together. They're like, hey, we want to hear more about what Intel is doing, with this. Like, can we? Sure. Yeah. And they loved the idea. So that hack, like I tripped on it. It was an accident. I was just trying to solve this like short-term personal problem I had. And I've done it at every event after because it's so powerful.
Yeah. I think what you're describing is later on people have tried to manufacture that under the term community, right? And then it's funny because community now is more product and support tickets. But I think that's something that we hadn't even really touched on, right? When it comes to in-person events, is that the culture, and there's a group, and this is why I love Sales Success so much. You build that longevity. The friendly known person becomes friends, and then becomes partners, collaborators, working together. You build a movement. It's almost bigger than the event itself, right? Because those relationships, they exist after the event. People are talking. They're excited. Oh, the summit's coming up. You guys going this year? Oh, what should we do in Austin, right? And then they're evangelizing for you as well because of that shared experience that they had.
That culture piece, and Tom Singer talks about this in the book.
It's a connector kind of thing.
Yeah, that culture piece is such a big deal, and most people never even consider it. I've always been crazy intentional about it, and it's this idea of like you want an open environment, you want this trust, you want this closeness. My goal is I want hugs over handshakes. right? Like, handshake's a little cold for what we're trying to accomplish here. But over the years, I've also had to be really intentional about the core of my community that have come to know each other through these events. They love each other. Like, this is our Christmas. This is when we all come together. But the danger in that is that can create a very uncomfortable environment for new people who are walking to this oh my gosh, here's people who are so tight and it feels super cliquey and I can't have a conversation. So again, it's an intentional thing that I work on culturally to make sure that, hey guys, when we're coming together, let's make sure that we're embracing the new people. Because people go to events to network, but then they suck at it. So if you as the organizer can help that process, if you create that experience and give the instruction early on, it boosts the culture, it boosts the experience. And one simple idea is, hey guys, as we're having conversations together in the hallways where all the magic happens, let's just be mindful that we're not talking in closed circles, that we're keeping them open.
I like that.
As like, look, you're welcome to just come join our circle and come join our conversation. Super little thing, so impactful, especially for the introverts who like, this is not natural or comfortable, right? And they're, I mean, statistically, that's like half of your audience. So if you can take care of those people, it makes a huge difference.
No one wants to repeat middle school. You got the food, right. And you're looking for a table to sit at. Right. Some of the best events I've been to is there's, hey, Jake, you do this. This person does this. You guys should meet, blah, blah, blah. And like just making that connection. Now I have a friendly face for the event. Ding is like the ultimate extrovert, but I'm low-key kind of an introvert. So I go to the events, I'm kind of scared to go talk to people. And there's a lot of people out there that are. So if you could
totally
go to there, and then that's just an easy tip. So
I'm an extroverted introvert myself. So I feel it. That's why I like intimate events. I don't like huge events. I'm like, oh my God.
One thing I love doing as an extrovert, and this is one of my old sales mentors, if you're having a small group or a one-on-one conversation, you see someone floating by, go out of your way, wave them down, right? Especially if it's an event where the goal is to meet people and network and whatnot. And then and you could segue that saying, hey, how's it going? We were just talking about this topic, right? Like, and then now they have a way to latch into the conversation, because it can be really hard if someone, they're deep in a conversation, they're at the midway point, and someone walks up. We've all had this experience. You walk up and you don't feel like you have anything to contribute because you miss all the context at the up front. So when you open that door a little bit, not only are you giving the context, but you're also giving permission. It's like, hey, we want you to talk and participate. And that's one thing that I think the community that you've built has done really well. I remember my first year coming in and performing and whatnot. I came in, I had known one or two people there from LinkedIn. They did a really good job. Like, hey, this is Ding. He does this. Yeah. Right. We were talking about this topic. And I could jump in. I'm like, hey, I don't just rap. I know a thing or two about sales.
That was the craziest experience for me, right? So like the context here, this is how I actually met Ding. I'm at the end of my event. It's our after party. Jack Wilson, my friend, is putting together a lot of this thing, and
shout out Jack Wilson.
All of a sudden, Ding is on stage. I don't know who Ding is. Ding is on stage rapping, like yelling out keywords. My name gets dropped, and then I'm like, "What is happening? Who is this guy?" It was so cool. It was so much fun.
I love that.
So if you can do that, totally do that at events.
Yeah, I kind of want to transition. We're talking about a little bit of sales here. I kind of want to transition to some of the best takeaways you've had hosting almost over 200 episodes of the Sales Success Podcast. Give us the most reoccurring theme that you've had in all these podcasts that maybe the best sellers continually talk about.
There are a number, but I think at the end of the day, what it all ultimately comes down to is they have found their own. We need more context here. On the Sales Success Stories podcast.
Good, thank you.
I only interview number 1 and top 1% performing active quota-carrying individual contributors. And I started this show just out of my own frustration. Like, I've always been a student of sales. I've always consumed a lot of this content. And before my show, I'm looking up going, oh my gosh, all this stuff I'm reading is coming from people who haven't carried a quota in decades. And I just thought, this is crazy. The sales environment, the marketplace, just the challenges that we're selling in are so different than they were 10 years ago. I want to know what the people who are at the top of their game right now, what are they doing, right? So that's the criteria. So with that context,
Let me ask this question again for a clip. Interviewing almost 200 of the top 1% sellers, what is the number one takeaway you've had so far?
there are many, right? And there are certainly some large prevailing themes in all of this. But I think what it ultimately comes down to is they have found their superpower. They have sort of figured out, like, what is that unique thing about me that I'm particularly good at, a way that I'm great at adding value, and they lean super hard into that. And so what happens, they're more natural, they're more authentic because they're just being themselves, and they're really good at that thing. It makes them so much more powerful in what they're able to do. And then, just following through on that, it leads to pretty significant epic performance. I mean, again, there's lots of other things, but at the end of the day, I think it really comes down to figuring out who you are as a seller truly and leaning into that. And I think this is also super important. It's about the customer. It's not about them. Right? So it's not, I've got to do this so that I can crush my numbers, so that I can get a big paycheck. It's really a sales as an act of service. As soon as you flip that switch, like, that cures commission breath, and now we're actually able to sell far more effectively through that approach. So those two things together, yeah.
Love that. That's great.
I'm going to go talk to another booth.
Yeah. I think Ding's like the perfect example of leaning into is
That's for damn
personality.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what's funny about that is that was true for me before I ever spat a lyric on LinkedIn, because my background was I was Yelp's Chinese translator for their sales team. But I got in the door, hitting the phone, selling,
Yelling at Chinese women. I've heard the stories.
Yeah, but my first 3 to 5 months, I was calling into rural Florida trying to sell small businesses ads, and I wasn't getting anywhere. I'm like, this sucks. So I'm not cut out for sales. And then they're like, hey, our enterprise team needs some help because we're working some global deals right now. We need someone to translate PDFs. They don't sponsor foreign nationals for their non-technical teams. I had a lot of engineers that were Chinese, no on the sales side. I was the only person in an org of thousands that could read and write Chinese. So they're like, all right, 22-year-old Ding, come on over to the enterprise team and help us out with this. That deal ended up closing. I just went all in. I'm like, this is my advantage. This is where I can add value. Yeah. I could crank 200 calls into some small bumblefuck town, right? Probably not going to get a lot of results. What's funny is because my rap career before my first sales role, I'd already rapped for 10 years, a decade in the music biz. Struggle rapping, not generating income from it, which is why I hung up the mic and went into sales. But when I learned that lesson from selling, now I know how I can ascribe value, use my raps not for me, talking about how Ding's so great and the best rapper. How can I use my abilities in lyric form to help other people sell their stuff? And that's when the floodgates open for me. My favorite session from the summit last year was, you want to set up your career trajectory in a way that compounds, right?
Yeah.
It's your expertise and skill, being able to hold your own in a conversation, offer actually valuable insights, and just have a finger on the pulse of what's going on in a specific industry. That makes you credible. That makes you better able to help others. Because if you're new to a new vertical, you're like, oh yeah, our software is great. When you're at the point where you can help people without anything to do with what your company does, right? That's when you really become a trusted advisor, and then selling feels more organic and natural.
What's interesting about the book is, so this was my first book, and part of my wanting to do it, my theory at the time, my theory's evolved a little bit. I don't know that I still believe this entirely, but I thought, the top sellers, most of those that I had seen had been at the company for a long period of time. They'd been in the same industry for a long period of time. They'd basically been in the same territory for a long period of time, and they were benefiting from that compounding effect. Yeah. I'm known in this community. I'm trusted. I have knowledge that's valuable, and all of those things. So when I went to this company selling into the event marketing space, I mean, I'd been in the marketing space more broadly, but not event marketing. I was trying to shortcut that process. I was trying to figure out, how can I create something of value that is going to more quickly elevate my own visibility and level of trust and other things. And I mean, it's a super powerful tool, right? Like if I can send you my book.
The average seller isn't writing a book about the industry.
I'm not sure that I recommend it. It is a hard row to hoe. Definitely have your friends do a lot of the work on it. Again, it was just one of those ways where this is a way that I can be creative and I can stand out and I can elevate myself in service to other people. It was pretty tremendous. And again, it also allowed me to learn how to do this process, which I've repeated and written sales success books and things like that. So and also it's how I learned podcasting. I knew I wanted to do my show. And we turned that book into a podcast. So initially it was basically an audio book in podcast form. And then I started doing interviews, and that allowed me to acquire all the equipment and, just understand that process so that when I came to sales success, like I was ready to roll.
So Scott, give it, as we're coming to the close of this podcast, what did we miss that's top of mind for you right now?
We didn't talk about AI once, barely. Again, I want to reiterate that idea I shared earlier, right? So if we combine the ideas of kind of finding your superpower and recognize that in the world there's an emerging superpower that like we really need to be cognizant of. You have to be conscious of what can it do and what will it be able to do over time? What are the things it won't be able to do, right? And so for me, what I've been really leaning into and thinking about from the beginning, I love AI. I think it's super powerful. I think it can be a force multiplier, but it's never going to have real relationships. It's never going to be able to create community. Actually, it's opportunity to kind of put a bow on this thing because of that opportunity of events, right? AI isn't going to host an event and gather humans. And if it did, I would be very, very suspect.
Oh, shit.
Like, don't go to that event. Hey, everybody, this is really cool. Come over here. Don't go there. But again, just that opportunity for us to have real relationships and to laugh and have fun and enjoy being together and enjoy doing business together. Those are the things that AI won't be able to replace. I mean, again, those are the top of mind things that align with my superpowers, right? So those are the things that I'm thinking about. They might be different for you. Actually, I'd love to know, like, how are you thinking about that? How are you thinking, like, 5 years from now, exponential growth of AI? How are you going to differentiate yourself over time as AI continues to grow in its capabilities?
There's going to be these AI avatars, right? But no one can perfectly replicate who you are, like who Jake Claire is. So just leaning into my personality and always continue, it sounds kind of corny, just being myself and kind of leaning into that. Like, people are going to attach to wanting to do business with Jake or hang out with Jake or laugh with Jake, right? And AI, you can't like go laugh with AI, or if you do, it's kind of weird. But
it's kind of weird.
Yeah, that's my.
There's an event you should go to.
Yeah, and I'll let Ding chime in because he's chomping at the bit to jump.
Yeah,
in here.
I have two part answers to that. So the first part is, who do you know and who knows you? That's going to be really important. What AI does is it will flatten the skill gaps and ability to execute on certain things. And that's where having that brand, and when I say brand, I don't mean just how many followers do you have online, right? It's what is your name as a person? What's your reputation? Who do you stand for? What do people know you for being good at? How you can help people? That's going to be really important. And the second piece is taste. I think because so much AI is trained on existing data, having the taste to come up with original creative becomes more important. And I'll contextualize that is in music or in any other creative field. There's two pillars of, on one hand, you have taste, and on one hand, you have creative ability to execute. Those things are separate, they develop separately. And that's the reason that people have writer's block, is that their taste has advanced above their ability to creatively execute. What AI is going to do is it's going to make everyone's ability to execute on creativity way more enhanced than it is, right? We look at, say, a VO3 from Google. Before, you needed a huge film crew and gaffers, lights, audio people. $100,000 cameras to get certain shots.
This is the AI video tool.
Yeah.
VO3.
Now you can have a Yeti in space. All right. So your imagination and your taste for what is good is going to be, and I'm speaking narrowly on content and video here, right? But I think that has application everywhere. If everyone can set up agents to go blast 1 million email, we're already seeing this, right? Everyone's a GTM engineer.
Yep.
Why do people have 30 domains? Is because it's so hard to even get one little iota of attention. But that's because people are operating with floor level taste, with rapidly expanding ability to execute on ideas. And people are so over indexed over here because it's fun, it's new, exciting. But if you lack the taste, you're not going to know what to do with the other side.
That's a really interesting observation. I had an epiphany on the podcast in an interview here recently. We've all heard the term, like all things being equal, all things are never equal. People do business with those they know, like, and trust, right? It's wrong. Like isn't necessary. If somebody knows you and they trust you, they don't even really need to like you, right? And I think, like, from an AI perspective, we've talked about it here. We are going to continue to have trust issues. But if I trust a person and they've developed, like, gosh, I've been at this for 2 decades, and all of this credibility has accrued, like, the level of trust in that can be a really, really powerful. It's really given me something to think about in terms of, like, the like thing is kind of irrelevant. It basically all comes down to trust, and people knowing that you exist and knowing that they can trust you is kind of the other piece of that equation.
Beautifully said. And that wraps up episode 16 of the EventShark Podcast. If you enjoyed it, please give us a like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you aren't yet. Go check out Scott Ingram. Where's the best place to find you, Scott?
Top1.fm.
Top one.
Number one. TOP, the number 1.fm.
Yeah, go check out the podcast that Scott hosts twice a month. And then also go check out the Sales Success Summit in Austin every year, coming up soon. And we'll see you on the next episode. Peace out.
Like, comment, subscribe.